Hey guys, Bingocat here. So today I want to give you guys my thought on the new quote-unquote essential phone. So for those of you who don't know, the essential phone is a brand new phone that was announced just yesterday as of this time of recording, and it's going to cost 699 US dollars. So the special thing about this phone is that it's designed by a company called Essential, which was founded by one of the founders of Android, Andy Rubin, and this is going to be their first phone that they're going to sell. Now, just because someone founded Android, though, doesn't mean that, they know the absolute best when it comes to Android phones, but we'll have to see how this company pans out. It looks like for the Essential phone, they're going with sort of the bezel-ish trend in smartphones. Basically just minimizing the screen borders to be as narrow as possible. And in order to accomplish this, they had to make some interesting sacrifices. The first thing you might notice about the Essential phone is that the front camera, it's in a pretty weird position. In order to fit the front camera in the normal spot on the front of their phone while still having a relatively bezel-less top of the phone, and I wound up cutting out part of the screen to put the front camera on the phone. And honestly, that's not really something that I particularly enjoy. It really depends on how developers sort of utilize the top part of the screen in their apps, but I don't know. It's not something that I prefer. I would prefer for them to honestly just leave a teeny tiny bit of bezel for the front camera. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Or just do what some other phone companies have done and put the camera on the bottom of the phone, then have that little weird cutout for the camera. But other than the camera, the design of the phone looks pretty gorgeous. I'm not a huge fan of the trend to make the corners of the screen curved. I just think that's gimmicky. If anything, I don't think that provides any real benefit to the phone. And I don't think it necessarily makes the phone look any better. I feel like they're just trying to do that to make their phone stand out. Like how Samsung with the Galaxy S8 and LG with the G6, they made the corners on their phones curved for some reason, even though this really doesn't add anything to the phone. And it doesn't make the phone look better, in my opinion. I think it actually kind of looks a little bit worse. Now, the phone has a ceramic back. And I've never felt a phone with ceramic or titanium on it, but it sounds cool. And when you look at the pictures of the phone, it looks pretty gorgeous. So this phone will be launching with Android 7.1.1 Nougat. This phone is supposed to be running pretty much the stock version of Android. So in theory, since it's running pretty much the stock version of Android, it should be able to get software updates pretty quickly. But we'll see how that plays out in real life. The Essential phone has a 2.5 gigahertz Snapdragon 835 system on chip with 4 gigabytes of RAM. And I think 4 gigabytes of RAM in 2017, honestly, I feel like new flagship smartphones, because this is a flagship smartphone, should be coming with at least 6 gigabytes of RAM, but 4 gigabytes is still enough for most people. But once again, this is a flagship device, so I don't know about you guys, but if I'm spending like $700 plus on a phone, and when I pick it up, I expect it to have the latest and greatest features. And 4 gigabytes of RAM, well, I mean, they came in last year's phones, and even some phones in 2015, so I would really prefer to have a 6 gigabytes of RAM option. This phone is also coming with 120 gigabytes of storage. Thank God. That's what phones like the S8 should be coming with. Since this phone does not have a micro SD card slot, it's nice to see that they're at least giving you a lot of built-in storage. This phone's display is going to be a 5.71 inch 2560 by 1312 display, which is a 504 ppi or pixels per inch with an extra tall 19 by 10 aspect ratio. I guess their point they're trying to make across is that you can have a bigger screen and still hold your phone with one hand. Now, the front camera on the phone is 8 megapixels with the dual 13 megapixel sensor setup with laser autofocus on the back, which, that sounds pretty decent. It's basically what you expect in a flagship phone nowadays. Now for power, you get a 3040 milliamp battery. It's not bad size battery, but when you're paying flagship prices, you expect flagship features. And one of the features I want to see in flagship phones is bigger, better battery life, even if it's at the cost of a few millimeters of thickness on a phone. The phone luckily does come with a fast charging USB-C port, and thank God they're using USB-C. Some new phones that are coming out this year are still coming with micro USB, but once again, flagship phone, you expect flagship features, and USB-C is a flagship feature. It should be on pretty much all flagship phones, and it pretty much is now, except the iPhone. It also has a modular connector on the back. We'll have to see whether this is actually useful or not. I don't think many people will really use it, but on the plus side, I do think modularity is really cool. Also, the phone has a rear fingerprint sensor, but this phone does not have a headphone jack. For a phone that's billed as being a quote-unquote essential phone, I think this phone should come with a headphone jack. I think there's no excuse for it to not come with a headphone jack. Now, I get that wireless is the future and etc., and that you can do audio through USB Type-C anyways. It's just that wired stuff plain works better than wireless stuff. Now, I could probably get over phone companies removing the headphone jacks from their phones if they actually included 2 USB Type-C ports on their phones. But they aren't doing that. They're including just 1 USB Type-C port, which means what do you have to do? Buy dongles. And it's not that dongles are that expensive, it just means you have to carry more stuff around with you. And honestly, no one really wants to do that. It's why people pretty much hated that Apple removed the headphone jack from the iPhone 7. It's just a bigger pain for things in the end, and they're really not saving much space by removing the headphone jack, so you might as well just include it in there. Another downside of this phone is not only does it not have a headphone jack, it doesn't have any water resistance. And, I get it. Most phones still don't have water resistance in it, but once again, if you're paying flagship prices for a phone, you expect flagship features. And water resistance, well, it's showing up in most flagship devices now. The LG G6 has it, the S8 has it, the S7 has it, even the iPhone has it. You're paying flagship prices, you expect flagship features, and not having water resistance there is kind of a bummer. Now, I can't recommend buying this phone for a couple of reasons. One, for a phone that's supposed to be quote-unquote essential, it's lacking essential things in my personal opinion, like water resistance and a headphone jack. Number two, the design is not exactly on point. Just that front camera placement is a little too weird for my taste. Number three, Essential is pretty much a brand new phone manufacturer, and there's going to be issues with the phone because they're a brand new manufacturer. There's either probably going to be software or hardware issues, and we really don't know how long support is going to last for that phone and how long it's going to get software updates. Number four, it's just too much money. $700 for a phone that, once again, doesn't have water resistance or headphone jack, or that's just from a plain new company that really hasn't proven itself. It's just too much money. I seriously, at $700, you can get better phones. I'll give Essential some credit. At least they're trying to push out new ideas in sort of a market that, doesn't really have that many new ideas. Anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out my Twitter, Instagram, and Discord linked down below in the video description. I hope to see you guys next time. Goodbye.